Hi, hello, welcome to Spell Day. We're covering a spell every single day of the year from the 5e PHB +3. Those +3 spells are homebrew spells. We're at +2 at the moment. You can head back in the playlist to find them, and today's spell is Stoneskin.
Why won't you die? Nanomachine, son.
4th level Abjuration, casting time for 1 action, range of touch, components verbal somatic material, diamond dust worth 100 gold pieces, which the spell consumes. Duration, concentration, up to 1 hour. The spell turns the flesh of a willing creature you touch as hard as stone. Until the spell ends, the target has resistance to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. It's not just the material component cost on this one, it's the concentration cost. Great benefit, it's touch, meaning you can do this on another person or creature. They do have to be willing, but, you know, animal handling and whatever, so certain mounts. We've talked about it in some other spells that provided it, but resistance is a really rare resource to come across, at least within the player's hands. When it comes to monsters, it's all over the place. But non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing, that's a nice all-rounder. 4th level, even for this effect, isn't that bad. What balances it down is the fact that it's concentration, which I would also understand. It's the 100 gold piece material component then put on top of it. That's consumed. Insult to injury to an extent, and the issue with any of these components is that gold pieces and the economies in certain games can vary quite wildly, and even how 100 gold pieces of diamond dust is determined when coming to a spell. So the exact impacts of 100 gold pieces, it's hard to tell, especially when you have 4th level spell capabilities. But probably, because the issue would come down to the concentration again. Yes, the material component hurts, but concentration hurts a lot because it's always comparing it to every other spell you could be concentrating on at that moment. Would it be better that the enemy is dead, or that your ally has a shield and AC instead of resistance? Or resistance to a specific elemental damage type instead of these 3 mundane ones? Holding down a banishment, holding down some kind of fire effect, holding down a smite? Okay, I don't think Paladin gets this. But you get what I mean. There's a bunch of other spell effects that you could be concentrating on at this time, Fly. But invisibility. The list goes on, of even lower level that you're comparing it to, because that's already enough to get you to judge whether you want to cast this or not. Where this kind of steps in, and at least world building wise limits this, is because minions would cast this on bosses. A toady sorcerer off to the side holding their 1 concentration slot on the boss, so that they can have the resistance. But if you throw on the gold piece cost on top of that, I mean, you're a DM, you can still just override that and say, yeah, they have the diamond dust. So, I don't know, that becomes futile. Now it's just making it even harder, or just more of a less optimal decision to pick it up for player-wise. Because it's the 100 gold pieces. Because the concentration is already bad enough. The fact it lasts for an hour is quite nice. But it's just comparing it to other spells. Because this is a combat-focused spell. The other benefit of some other spells that lasted long and were also concentration was that if they were outside of combat or directly utility, it's not that bad, because you'd have plenty of chances to use it or for it to become useful in some sense, or even like detect magic, looking around. Compared to other divination spells like scrying, yeah, you have a idea that you're specifically doing that. Where am I going with this? When it comes to Stoneskin, it's a combat spell. It's a combat defensive spell. You might make an argument for going through traps, but are you really going to use 100 gold pieces of diamond dust to go through traps and still take damage? Material component consumption is just to stop NPCs from spamming this, or players from spamming it on 1 target instead. But even then, it's still debatable whether you pick it up or even use it. That thrown on top of it just sinks it. 2 out of 10. It's not 1, because it does, again, it's 3 different resistances. That's a bit nice to non-magical common damage types. It's the cost that's consumed and the fact it's concentration and already a 4th level spell slot. Not the worst in many of those accounts, but you just would be better spent those spell slots, gold pieces, and concentration on another spell. And on that, take your pick. It's not fighting one, it's fighting a list.